Hello and welcome to VeritasPopuli, Truth for the People. I'm your host and producer of the show, Dan Meredith. On VeritasPopuli, we explore many different areas: historical, political, spiritual, cultural. We believe that the truth is like a precious metal. The harder it's rubbed, the brighter it shines. Today we're honored to have some special guests with us. Alecia Talbott is the Executive Director of the Down Syndrome Association of Middle Tennessee. Welcome, Alecia.
Thank you.
We also have Meghan Maynard. Hi, Meghan.
Hi.
And we have her mother, Jennifer Maynard, and they're here to talk about their experience. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We had just recently taped a show with the Clarks, who have a little baby that has Down syndrome. And then we wanted to have a different show that has a little different aspect about Down syndrome, because it's such a subject that's pretty widespread and broad, and you just wanted to get some more ideas about what Down syndrome is all about. Tell me a little bit, Alecia, about how your involvement became, you became involved with Down syndrome.
Well, when my son was born, who is now 8, and we were in the hospital and we welcomed him, they took him off to the NICU. And when the doctor came back to talk to me, she said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but we think your son has Down syndrome." And my husband and I didn't know anyone with Down syndrome. We were kind of in shock. And she said, "Do you have any questions?" And you know, we didn't know what to say, and we just said, "No." And she said, "Okay, we'll follow up with you later." And off she went. And it was that's how our journey started. And we happened to have thought he was absolutely beautiful and looked just like my husband. And we came close to leaving the hospital wondering what this meant and whether or not he would live or die. We really knew nothing. And right before we were discharged, there was a woman who at the time was running the Down Syndrome Association who came to visit us, who had an adult with Down syndrome. And she walked into our room and she said, "Congratulations, he's beautiful." And it was the first time anybody had looked at this birth since he had been born in just that 2-day period with joy and celebration, which was very different from, my other pregnancy with my daughter. And we were still in tears and still in shock, and at the time it didn't quite sink in. But as soon as we got involved with the community and met other families, it quickly sunk in how important that just one connection was from another parent who said congratulations. And I can't tell you most of what else she said that day, but that one reach out of saying congratulations.
Wow.
And so we became involved with the organization immediately. My son was 5 weeks old when we did the Nashville Buddy Walk, and we stayed involved throughout. And when my son got ready to go to preschool, I was working full time and decided that I would stop doing that and freelance. I was in marketing, and about that time was when the current executive director left to go be the CEO of the ARC of Nashville and Davidson County. And my husband and I talked about it and prayed a lot, and so I applied for this job. And so that's kind of that's my long Cliff Notes version of where.
That's amazing to me, because on one end you have someone that walks into your room and says, "I'm sorry to tell you." On the other end, you have someone that says something totally different. Now, Meghan, you have Down syndrome. If you were to have someone come to you and a new parent that says, "We're going to have a baby that has Down syndrome," what would you say to them?
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Wow. That's a big difference, isn't it? From saying, "I'm sorry to tell you," to congratulations. That's not something that's bad, is it? It's something that's good. Now, Meghan's mom is here. Jennifer, tell me about your experience that led you to be involved with Down syndrome. Obviously, a daughter with Down syndrome. Tell me a little bit about your story.
Well, we found out before Meghan was born that she would have Down syndrome. So we had about a month and a half to adjust and prepare. We knew she would require surgery when she was born. So by the time we went to the hospital to have her, we felt kind of empowered by the education that we had started to get about Down syndrome. We were also very fortunate to reach out before she was born to the Down Syndrome Association, and they were having a new parents class. So before Meghan was born, I went very pregnant to a new parents class and sat with a group of people and a bunch of babies and other moms and got to listen to and talk to other parents and share their experience and concerns. And I felt immediately part of that community, which was so reassuring, because when you first get news that you're not expecting like this, it can feel very isolating. So to have that experience before she was even born made an enormous difference in my confidence going into her birth, knowing that I had the support of that community. So she was born a little bit early, and she did have a duodenal atresia repair at birth, which is something that a lot of kids with Down syndrome do have. It's where they have a blockage in their intestine. So she had that repaired, and she was in the NICU for about 3 weeks. And we went home with a healthy baby. And I kind of share what Alecia had to say. I picked up on some people's awkwardness about what to say when she was born, and I really wanted to celebrate.
Right.
So I think I felt like I was trying to put people at ease when they would come by the hospital or call or send things. I did get some sympathy cards, which were really tough. But I think as I started to talk to people, my husband and I put them at ease so that they would feel comfortable celebrating with us. So I think that's really important for any new parents to be able to celebrate the birth of their child and to have the support of the community when they do have a child with a disability is enormous. It's very important.
I think that's one of the messages I'd like to get out with this show, is that this isn't something to be sad about. Don't send a sympathy card. Send a congratulations card. This is a baby. This is a member of your family. This is a wonderful new little baby, a new person starting out on a wonderful life that's going to have some bad things that happen and some good things that happen. But it's just another person, just like all of us are.
Right.
Meghan, what are some things that you're in high school now, I think, right? Okay. What are things that you like about high school? What's your favorite subject?
My favorite subject is math and reading.
Math and reading? You like reading?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have a lot of friends at school?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
What do you not like about school?
I don't like about school. I don't want to see people get hurt.
Don't like people getting hurt. Now, that's a bad thing, isn't it? So she is, what grade is Meghan in?
She's in 11th grade.
In 11th grade. So she'll graduate
next year.
Next year? Okay. And what plans do you have after school, after you graduate from high school? Do you have plans?
Yes, I do. And I might wait for college, like real soon, like to fashion college.
Okay. Okay, that's a great goal.
Meghan's very interested in fashion, so she's looking forward to finding something that she can do to be involved in some way in designing clothes and perhaps in a retail situation. And we've been looking into next steps at Vanderbilt, which is a now 4-year program at Vanderbilt University that Meghan may be able to take part of.
Great. Now, Alecia, you work with the Down Syndrome Association in Middle Tennessee, so you know probably a lot, or more than most people do, about the abilities of Down syndrome people throughout Tennessee. I think a lot of people have the idea that people with Down syndrome don't progress and have abilities to work and get married and go to school, those kind of things. Can you tell me about the abilities of people that you see? I read recently about someone in Washington or Oregon that was speaking at a TED conference and got a bachelor's degree.
Karen Gaffney.
Right, that's the one. She swam the English Channel and all these things. What kind of things are you hearing about people now that we're giving them more training and abilities?
It's interesting. Parents, when I meet them, will often say, in their fear and unknowing, what will this look like? And the greatest thing for me is to be able to say, I have absolutely no idea, because you couldn't put any child in front of me and say, what what are the possibilities for this child? It's no different for a child with Down syndrome. We have no idea what the possibilities will be for any child, but the possibilities today are better than they have ever been historically. We have adults today who are in their 30s and 40s who get married, who have pets, who have full-time jobs. One of my friends who lives in Louisville and is married, or who lives in Kentucky and is married, just got a job as a teacher's aide at the local school. We have a young man who just had a lead in a major motion picture release. We have a young man who just did a bodybuilding contest. And these are folks who are adults now who were raised in a time period where their parents were generally just fighting to get them into schools and to get just basic supports for them in schools. Our kids went to school with tons of supports. So we have no idea what the possibilities are. You look at Jamie Brewer, for example, who starred in American Horror Story and walked Fashion Week. There's just, it's amazing what kinds of things these adults can do when they grow up in a time period culturally that was very different for individuals with disabilities. I think we still have a long way to go because there's still a lot of stigma around disabilities, but there's still so much more support and available today. So when I look at my son who's 8 and we go to school and have meetings, yes, we're talking about college. And those programs weren't available 20 years ago. So we have no idea what's coming up for new parents, but there's the possibilities are, you never know.
Right. Now, Meghan is a self-advocate, a national self-advocate, or what? She plays a role.
Meghan is both. Meghan was selected as the Down Syndrome Association's Self-Advocate of the Year, which is a position, an award that we give annually to one individual with Down syndrome who has, through their life and the activities and involvement that they do, really exemplified and helped to advocate for the inclusion and acceptance of individuals with Down syndrome. And Meghan definitely, through all of the activities that she has done, she was a fantastic choice for the organization. And then this year she also became a National Down Syndrome Society Self-Advocate Ambassador. And so we were, last year, as part of this, we went to Washington, D.C., met with all of the Tennessee legislators, and Meghan helped advocate to have the first Tennessee legislator join the National Task Force on Down Syndrome.
Wow.
So she has been
Meghan, you went to Washington?
Yes.
What did you like about Washington?
I like about Washington is meet some people.
You met a lot of people there?
Yes.
Did you see the big buildings in Washington?
Yes.
I went to Washington a long time ago, and I was just amazed at all the huge, big buildings that were so old. So that was a neat place. Did you ride the subway, the train in Washington?
Yes.
Did you ride that?
Yes.
The train that went underground?
Yes.
That was sort of neat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you'd like to go back to Washington sometime?
Yes.
Okay, that's neat. Okay, tell me about, is there a Big Brothers program, or is there some program that you're...
Best Buddies
Best
program.
Buddies, that's right. That's Best Buddies. Tell me about the Best Buddies program.
Well, there are proms and parties and some meetings and stuff.
Meetings?
Yes.
Okay, and the prom. I bet
Yes.
that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You get to get dressed up for that?
Yes.
Oh, boy. When is that? Is that the end of the school year?
It's usually in the winter after the
Oh.
holidays.
Oh, okay.
Late January usually.
Okay, well, that'll be soon. That'll be neat.
And that program is wonderful because what it does is it matches peers with students. With the special needs students, we'll get a typical peer in the school, or if you're out of the school, they have community Best Buddies programs. And they might meet sometimes to go out for hot chocolate or ice cream. Meghan's been with her best buddy to out to eat hamburgers one time, I think. Sometimes they'll go to each other's houses. They might go to like a basketball game together. But it's kind of it's a peer matchup, so that they have a kind of connection in the school to kind of go to some of the school activities with peers as well.
Okay.
It's a great program.
Yeah. Now, do you have brothers?
Yes.
How many brothers?
3.
3 brothers?
Yes.
Are they nice to you?
Yes.
Okay. My brother wasn't nice to me. Yeah, we fought sometimes. Do you ever fight with your brothers?
No.
No,
I
you
know.
get along with them?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good. Maybe I can trade. Could you take my brother and I'll take your brother's?
Yes.
Okay. My brother's big. He's old. I don't know if he'd want to come and live with you. You wouldn't like him. He's an old, big old man.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, we probably wouldn't want to trade then.
Yeah.
So the association here in Middle Tennessee, what kind of they provide services, counseling, what kind of fellowship, what kind of things does the association do?
Well, the organization, we want to celebrate and support all families with an individual who has Down syndrome throughout the lifespan. So that starts with new and expecting parents. We connect them with a parent mentor or veteran parent to give them resources and information. We hold baby showers to help them celebrate the coming birth. We have educational workshops for parents as well as for teachers, medical professionals, as well as business owners. We have community events for families to help create those connections, because we know for families that meeting with other families and who are going through similar circumstances only helps with what they're going through. I mean, having a child, being a parent is difficult anyway. Having a child with special needs is difficult. There are challenges, and so having that support from the community is very important, so we want to foster that. And then we have a lot of inclusive programs that we do. We have a program called Circle of Friends that meets monthly, where we bring to them, you know, it might be a Taekwondo instructor or a musician, and we have typical peers with them as well. And then we do a lot on the advocacy front as well, both locally, state, and nationally. And then just helping parents answer questions whenever we can. It brings me to this idea that, and you made me think of it, Megan, you know, when other people connect with individuals with Down syndrome, it's an interesting thing that happens. We often have people who will call and say, I volunteered, or I was at an event and I met so-and-so who has Down syndrome, and how can I get more involved? I drank the Kool-Aid, I'm hooked. It's this wonderful connection. You know, I have the privilege of meeting hundreds of individuals with Down syndrome, and I can tell you that I would much rather spend a day with Megan than lots of other people that I know. And it's a joy to be at work. I work all the time and it never feels like work. And I hear this all the time, this God gives special kids to special people, and no, he doesn't. He gives special kids to everybody, and then everybody has an opportunity to become a special person if they choose to take advantage of that. But when you get around individuals with Down syndrome, they have extraordinary gifts, and all you have to do is look and get to know them. It's kindergarten stuff. But what you get out of it, people who volunteer, they go, you know, I'm the one who reaped all the benefits. You know, I came to give, and I'm the one who got, because it's a wonderful experience. That's more than you asked me, but I'm very passionate about the organization, and so we want to highlight all of the accomplishments that individuals with Down syndrome bring to our world, and we basically want everybody to realize this wonderful gift that we as parents have. So if you haven't, I say it all the time, if you don't know someone who has Down syndrome, it's kind of like Andy and Woody, right? You don't have a friend yet? Go get one, because you're missing out.
Yeah.
You know, we have parents who say, hey, we won the jackpot. You know, yeah, there's struggles, but man, this is good. This is good life.
It just popped in my mind, most of the time, I mean, Down syndrome is very rare, so most of the time people have, it's like God passed these special people around, one to a family. Are there anyone that you know that has two people in the family with Down syndrome? Maybe if they adopt, but are there people
so there are 3 types of Down syndrome. So there's trisomy 1 or trisomy 21, which is the most common, which is where the cell triplication happens in all of the copies of the cells. There is mosaic Down syndrome, where the additional copy of the 21st chromosome does not happen on all of the copies on all of the cells. That one is not necessarily hereditary, but there's a type that's called translocation, in which the 21st chromosome, the additional copy, instead of attaching to the 21st chromosome, actually attaches to different cells and that one is genetically transferred. So a parent who has a child with translocation type or variant of Down syndrome would have a greater likelihood of having additional children with translocation Down syndrome, and their typical children would also have a greater likelihood of having children with Down syndrome.
Okay.
So it has happened.
So
And then, you know, I have met families. There's actually, I have met other families who just happen to have two individuals with trisomy 21. I mean, it can happen. Same as twins.
Yeah.
Not nearly as likely, of course.
Right. You mentioned medical people. I'm a registered nurse, and I find, as I've done some study on this, that, you know, most of us think that, well, I'll just talk to my doctor, or I'll talk to the nurse, and they'll give me all the scoop on everything. I found that medical people sometimes really they aren't up to par on this because it's not as well known unless you're in that specific area. Do you find that medical people need more training or need more information about Downs?
They need lots more information about Down syndrome. I remember being in the hospital. My husband went home to shower in the middle of the night, and a nurse came in and she said, "I feel so bad for you. I didn't have anything to give you. I Googled Down syndrome for you." And I thought, really? I'm at the hospital, and I've had a baby, and all you have is Google. But, you know, but you have to realize, too, I realize that Down syndrome is very rare. And so when you're going through your medical training, how big of a block is Down syndrome in your training? It's very small. And so we have a medical partnership program where we would provide for, you know, nurses or physicians some training and connect them with families, just like Jennifer and Meghan, to say, here's what our experience has been. And when you come in and the first thing that you say is, "I'm sorry," do you realize the tone that sets? And we have tip sheets for medical professionals, and we're not the only association that has those. The national organization and so forth does as well. But just gives them some tips and some information, but connects them to real families to say, let me tell you how that impacts me and how it makes me feel when you're my physician, my trusted person, and you've looked at this in this way and you've spoken to me this way about it. Because I think they need to appreciate both sides.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've learned throughout my career as a nurse is that, you know, the old axiom for physicians is, in all things, you know, whatever you do, do no harm. And I've learned as a nurse, if I don't know what I'm talking about, keep my mouth shut. Because I don't want to say something that's wrong. I'd rather say nothing. There's times for just pretending like you know what you're talking about because you want to instill confidence in a patient. But that doesn't mean saying things you don't know or saying the wrong thing. Can you tell me any experiences in your experience, where good or bad, in dealing with either family or medical professionals or any of your experiences?
Sure. Well, before Meghan was born, when I found out she had Down syndrome, I had been working with a pediatrician, trying to, you know, find a pediatrician, and I wasn't comfortable with this person. Once I found out that Meghan was going to have Down syndrome, I just did not get a good feeling on some questions that I asked. So I went to the new parents class at the Down Syndrome Association, and one of the speakers that day was a pediatrician that worked in a group here in Nashville, and I spoke to her afterwards and ended up getting into their group. So I would highly encourage people to be with a doctor that they're comfortable with and that they probably have gotten some good recommendations from, so that you feel that you have that type of support too. Because when you go to the doctor with a baby that can have different health issues, you really need to feel that support and encouragement. And some of the things I felt from the other doctor were almost like I was being a burden, and that I was bringing a problem that he didn't really want to deal with. So I think being with a pediatrician that you feel really comfortable with is extremely important.
Okay.
And you asked about family as well. We have a lot of local family, and they've all been very comfortable and supportive, and they've all had their own timeline on getting used to and adjusting to when Meghan was born.
Yeah.
And but for the most part, I do feel lucky, as Alecia said, that Meghan was born when she was, because of the surgeries that she's required and the health issues that she's had, and primarily in the community. Meghan going through school, you do have to work and get out there and advocate for your child in school. It's not just handed to you. You
Right.
definitely have to work for it. But the acceptance and the inclusion that she has had has been overwhelming.
Yeah.
And as a mom, that is just, it's so important, because dropping your child off in the morning for any child when they're in kindergarten or preschool or anything, it's tricky.
Right.
But when you have a child like Meghan, it's really hard to just trust other people to take care of your child.
Sure.
And so I'm so glad that people have had the kind of experiences they've had, the other kids that have gotten to know Meghan. I think it's kind of like they learn and then they tell others. Like you said, she's influencing other people's lives.
Sure.
And I think in her high school, she's been very, very active. She's in the choir at her high school. She cheers with the varsity cheerleaders. And
Wow.
like, I just love that when she's out there cheering on basketball or football, that there's so many people in the stands and in the stands on the other side that are seeing that. And they may know somebody with Down syndrome and say,
Wow.
hey, guess what I saw today.
Great.
So I just love that sort of, and then they tell someone and so on and
Yeah.
so on, that she's getting out there and letting other people know some possibilities.
Great. As we close here, we just got a few seconds left, and the one person here that knows the most about Down syndrome is Meghan. And can you tell me, Meghan, what is it like to have Down syndrome?
Well, I think it's great.
It's great.
Mhm.
You really think it's a great thing.
Mhm.
That's what I want to leave people with here, that the person who knows the most about Down syndrome here tells you it's great. So if there's someone that comes up and tells you that my baby has got Down syndrome, or I'm going to have a baby that's got Down syndrome, don't say, oh, I'm sorry, but tell them that's great. Congratulations. I saw a TV show and listened to Meghan, who has Down syndrome, and she said, that's a great thing. Congratulations. Thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for the guests for being here. See you next time on Veritas Populi.